He once stood at the pinnacle of wealth and power, never sparing a thought for God. To him, religion was for the weak, a crutch for those who couldn't navigate the world on their own. But then, a horrifying event changed everything. In just a few short minutes, he left this world. And in that brief moment, he met someone he never expected: Jesus Christ. Before his very eyes, the Lord unveiled a terrifying vision of the world's dark future, a shocking revelation and an unthinkable prophecy concerning two of the most powerful men on earth today, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. What warning did Jesus give? Is there a way to change the fate of humanity before it's too late? What horrifying truth lies behind the connection between Donald Trump and Elon Musk? This testimony will shake your beliefs to the core. Stay with us until the very end, because the message he brings back will change your life forever. This is his testimony. Hello, Eternal Bible Stories. My name is Henry Martin, and I am 62 years old. I was born and raised in New York City, a place where money and power mean everything. I once ran a major corporation, owned a luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park, and lived a life most people could only dream of. I had everything: wealth, fame, power. In the eyes of others, I was a winner, a self-made man who had climbed from nothing to stand at the top of the world. But amidst all my achievements, there was one thing I did not have: faith. I never believed in God. To me, religion was merely a comfort for the weak, something for those who couldn't handle the harsh realities of life. I believed the world operated on logic, not miracles. Success came from intelligence, perseverance, and the right decisions, not from prayers or faith in some unseen higher power. And then, on a day that should have been just another ordinary day, I died. A death so sudden and terrifying that I never saw it coming. And in the moments when I no longer belonged to this world, I saw things no one has ever spoken of before. Things that would change my life forever, and perhaps they will change yours too. That morning, on September 14, 2023, I woke up just like any other day. A day filled with plans and important meetings. I checked my phone, scanned my emails, and scheduled high-stake business deals. My mind was consumed with numbers, strategies, negotiations, and how to ensure my company remained at the top of the market. Stepping out onto the balcony of my luxurious penthouse, I looked down at Central Park, feeling power and success coursing through my veins. I had everything in my hands, and there was no reason for me to believe in some higher power. I put on my Armani suit, strapped my gold Rolex around my wrist, and headed to the underground parking lot where my Tesla Model X was waiting. It's worth mentioning that I wasn't just a successful businessman, I was also a technology enthusiast. I believed in innovation, in the brilliant minds that could change the world, and among them Elon Musk was my idol. To me, he wasn't just a genius, he was a visionary, a man who had revolutionized technology and was leading humanity into a new era. Tesla was one of the greatest symbols of that progress, and I took immense pride in owning the latest model. I ran my hand along the car's sleek, polished surface, feeling a surge of pride. This wasn't just a car, it was the future. I unlocked it with a fingerprint scan, and the soft hum of the electric engine came to life. Technology at its finest. As I accelerated out of my elite neighborhood, I felt unstoppable. A man fully in control, moving toward a future shaped by intellect and innovation, not by blind faith in religion. The drive to Manhattan started like any other day. Traffic was dense on the George Washington Bridge, but the sky was crystal clear, signaling what should have been a perfect day. My mind raced through my upcoming presentation, imagining how I would dazzle investors with my mind-blowing profit figures. It was just another day in my life, a life where I controlled everything, a life where weakness and religious belief had no place. And then, In a single instant, everything changed. A deafening screech of brakes, a sudden, violent collision right behind me. I barely had time to turn my head when I saw it, a massive truck barreling straight toward my car at terrifying speed. Blinding headlights, and then everything slowed down. Crash. The impact slammed into my Tesla, throwing me forward with unimaginable force. I felt a crushing pressure on my chest, my body flung like a rag doll caught in a storm. The screech of twisting metal, the shattering of glass, and then a searing pain ripping through me. I tried to grip the steering wheel, but my hands were slick with blood. Slipping, useless. A scream caught in my throat. I knew I was about to die. The world around me faded, the chaotic sounds of the crash distant and hollow, as if I was sinking into a bottomless abyss. I felt warm blood trickling down my forehead, staining the luxurious fabric of the suit I had once worn with pride. My chest burned, every breath labored and suffocating, and in that final moment, everything went black. I was dead. I jolted awake, but the world before me was completely unfamiliar. No longer was I surrounded by the luxurious leather seats of my Tesla, nor the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan, nor the bustling streets I had known all my life. Instead, I saw myself. But I was no longer inside my body. I was floating like a soul detached from reality, a helpless spectator watching a nightmare unfold. A nightmare I never imagined would happen to me. Down below, amidst the wreckage, I saw my own lifeless body trapped in the twisted metal frame of my car. The windshield was shattered, blood smeared across the broken shards, and my vacant eyes stared out into nothingness. Screams filled the air. The wailing sirens of an ambulance echoed through the chaos, flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the rain-slicked pavement. I saw paramedics rushing toward the wreckage, prying open the car door, desperately trying to pull me out. Their faces were tense, one placing fingers on my neck to check for a pulse, another hastily pressing defibrillator pads against my chest. Urgent voices pierced through the turmoil. "We've lost a pulse. Prepare to shock. No response. He's gone." Gone? Me? Impossible. Those words tore through my consciousness like a thunderclap, straight to my soul. No, this cannot be happening. I still had too much left to do. What about my company, my fortune? Who would oversee the millions of dollars I had built over the years? My luxurious penthouses, my collection of high-end cars, the projects I had left unfinished? Was I truly leaving all of it behind? I had spent my entire life fighting for power and wealth, only to depart with nothing in my hands. I screamed, desperately trying to call out to the people around me, "I'm still here, save me, do something!" But no one heard me, no one saw me. Panic surged through my being as I lunged toward my body, trying to reclaim it, but I was held back by an invisible barrier. A force beyond my comprehension, stronger than my will, bound me where I was, rendering me powerless. A storm of fear swallowed me whole. I had always believed that I was in control, that money and power could buy everything, but in this moment, I couldn't even buy back a single heartbeat. I realized, for the first time in my life, that I had no power at all. And then it appeared. A brilliant light erupted before me, not like the flashing ambulance lights, not like the glow of the sun, but a light teeming with life, radiating infinite power and eternity itself. It was not merely bright. It had gravity, a pull that I could feel within my very essence. The air around me vibrated, as if reality itself was shifting. And then a voice resounded. At that moment, from within the brilliant radiance, a figure emerged. At first, the light was too overwhelming to discern details, but as my vision adjusted, I saw a tall, powerful, yet profoundly majestic presence. The light did not shine upon him, it radiated from him, as if he himself was the very source of light. No darkness could approach him, no impurity could taint his holiness. I did not need an introduction. I did not need to ask. I knew who he was, Jesus Christ. He stood before me unshaken like an immovable mountain, yet gentle as a passing spring breeze. His eyes, oh, his eyes, they were not merely looking at me, they were looking through me, into me. They were a gateway to my soul, stripping away every facade, every lie, every illusion I had ever built around myself. And I trembled. Not because he was frightening, but because through his eyes I saw myself. I saw every moment of arrogance, every selfish decision, every instance where I had belittled those weaker than me. I saw how I had ignored the cries of the poor, how I had worshipped money and power above all moral values. I saw the truth I had spent a lifetime running from. I was a man who had lived only for himself, devoid of love, devoid of compassion. I had expected anger. I had expected judgment. But no, he did not condemn me and he did not accuse me. Instead, he looked at me with a sorrow so deep that it shattered me to my core. Not disappointment, but grief. The grief of a father watching his child wander too far from home. And I collapsed. I had no physical form, yet I felt myself kneeling before him, like a child who had finally realized the weight of his mistakes. I wanted to speak, to apologize, to plead for another chance, but no words came. Words were meaningless in the face of such greatness. Then Jesus extended his hand toward me. That hand, it was not the hand of a ruler seeking power, nor the hand of a warrior demanding obedience. It was the hand of a Savior, overflowing with love, overflowing with mercy. And when I looked at his hand, I saw the scars. The nail marks were still there, never fading with time. These were not wounds of defeat, but proof of a love so profound that it bore pain beyond measure. He spoke again. "Come with me, Henry. I have something to show you." And in an instant, reality shifted around me. Jesus extended his hand, and the scene before me changed completely. I saw New York, but it was no longer the dazzling city of lights and opportunity that I once knew. Instead, the streets lay in ruin. Buildings had collapsed, and looted stores stood hollow and abandoned. People wandered like shadows, gaunt and desperate, their eyes hollow with hunger and despair. They roamed the desolate streets, searching for food, water, any glimmer of hope, something that now seemed to have vanished from this world. The bustling traffic was gone, the honking horns silenced. Only the echoes of distant screams, the cries of the helpless, and the wails of those who had lost everything filled the air. The banks had closed, and the global economy had crumbled into dust. I saw endless lines of people waiting outside relief centers, clinging to the last scraps of hope that they might receive a little food to keep them alive for another day. But even these supply stations had run dry. The strong pushed and shoved, fighting over what little remained, while the weak cowered in corners, waiting for mercy that would never come. Cash had become worthless. Those who were once wealthy and powerful could trade for nothing unless they had something more valuable to offer. The world had descended into lawlessness, devoid of order, justice, or compassion. Then suddenly a brilliant light broke through the chaos, illuminating the darkness like a beacon. A massive stage emerged in the heart of the city. At its center stood a figure of undeniable authority. Even from a distance, I recognized him immediately. Elon Musk. He was dressed simply, without extravagance, yet the confidence in his eyes and the commanding tone of his voice held the crowd captive. Behind him, a colossal LED screen displayed images of nations engulfed in turmoil. Families left homeless, cities ablaze in riots and destruction. Elon Musk raised his hand, and an eerie silence swept over the sea of millions gathered before him. "The world has suffered enough," his voice thundered across the square. "We need a solution, a new system, a world where no one is left behind." There was something hypnotic about his words. It wasn't like the political speeches I had heard before. His voice carried a force, a persuasion that compelled anyone listening to believe. Then he lifted a small object between his fingers, a microchip. This is the answer. The screen behind him flashed to life, playing a demonstration of how the chip functioned. It was tiny, no larger than a grain of rice, and could be implanted in the hand or forehead. With this chip, people could make instant payments with a single wave, unlock doors without keys, and access their medical records seamlessly. No more financial fraud, no more identity theft, no more hunger. With this chip, you will never have to worry about money, security, or healthcare again, Elon Musk declared. This is the future, a future free from injustice, free from fear. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. They cheered, clapped, some even wept with joy. They believed in him. They saw him as a savior, the one who had come to restore hope in a dying world. I looked around and saw people eagerly lining up to receive the chip, pushing and shoving, terrified of missing their chance to be part of this salvation. But then I looked into their eyes, and I saw something terrifying. The light in their eyes was fading. Their once vibrant expressions became hollow. They had stopped praying. They no longer spoke of God. A strange emptiness wrapped around them, as if they had lost something, a piece of their very soul. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Jesus tightened his grip on my hand. His voice, powerful yet filled with sorrow, echoed in my soul. Look closely, Henry. This is the beginning of the mark of the beast. I froze, unable to comprehend what I was witnessing. This was the mark of the beast? I had heard of it, read about it in scripture, but never had I imagined it would come like this, not through oppression, not through force, but through an irresistible promise, a flawless solution. I turned to Jesus, my voice barely a whisper. But why are they accepting it so easily? His gaze met mine, deep with sorrow yet unwavering in truth. The enemy will not come with swords and chains. He will come with solutions. He will convince mankind that this is for their own good, but in reality, they are selling their souls. A chill spread through my body. I looked back at the crowd, still roaring with excitement, still welcoming the chip into their flesh. They had no idea they were walking into a trap, that they were surrendering their souls to a force they did not understand. And then, as if the nightmare had only just begun, the scene shifted again. A different stage, a different leader, and this time I could hardly breathe. I was staring at someone the entire world had once trusted, a man who had once promised to restore order, a man who had once claimed to stand for truth. My pulse pounded in my ears, my breath caught in my throat. No, it can't be. I knew I was about to witness something far worse than I had ever imagined, and the truth that was about to be revealed would shake the very foundation of humanity. The scene before me changed once more. The blinding light vanished, replaced by a solemn and authoritative setting, the White House. I saw a major press conference unfolding, drawing the attention of the entire world. On stage, amid hundreds of cameras and flashing lights, a man stood behind the podium, exuding strength and confidence. Donald Trump, a name no one could forget. He stood tall in a crisp suit, his face radiating power and determination. Below him, a sea of people waved American flags, holding up signs that read, "Make America Great Again," chanting his name in unwavering support. Trump's voice rang out, firm, powerful, and filled with the commanding presence he had always possessed. "We will restore peace. We will bring America back to its rightful place at the top of the world. No more war, no more chaos, no more fear. Trust in me." A thunderous roar erupted from the crowd, a wave of excitement surging through the air. I turned my gaze behind him. Standing there were world leaders, figures of immense power from the United Nations, NATO, and, astonishingly, representatives from China, Russia, and the Middle East. A sight never before witnessed in history. Former rival nations now standing together, unified in an alliance that once seemed impossible. Trump pulled out a pen and signed a global treaty laid out before him. As he lifted the document toward the cameras, I could clearly see the bold text inscribed across it, Global Financial and Security System. The crowd erupted into cheers, camera flashes ignited like a storm, and the leaders standing behind him smiled in satisfaction. The entire world was witnessing a historic moment, a new door opening for humanity. But my heartbeat quickened, a deep unease creeping into my chest. Something was not right. Suddenly I heard the voice of Jesus Christ speaking to me, clear as day, neither angry nor condemning, just a deep, sorrowful truth. He believes he is doing the right thing, but he has been deceived. I froze, a chilling sensation crawling down my spine. I looked back at Trump, his face glowing with confidence, convinced he was ushering in a new era, a perfect order, but I knew something unseen was pulling the strings behind the curtain. Then, a new vision unfolded before me. I saw Trump and Elon Musk shaking hands on stage in front of millions of people watching worldwide, a historic moment, marking the union of politics and technology. The crowd below erupted in overwhelming excitement, while the media flooded the airwaves with praise, hailing it as the perfect alliance to save the world. But I felt no relief. I saw no salvation. I only saw a masterfully orchestrated illusion, one so convincing that no one could see they were being led astray. The scene shifted again. I saw Trump seated in the Oval Office, a critical document laid out before him. He picked up a pen and prepared to sign a new executive order. As I moved closer, I saw the bold words printed on the paper. All U.S. citizens must have an identification chip to work, buy, and access healthcare services. My mouth went dry, a cold shiver racing through my body. No, it couldn't be. I looked around. The top advisors flanking him nodded approvingly, believing this was the right step, the best solution for America and the world. But then, I looked into their eyes, and what I saw was terrifying. The light was gone. They were no longer themselves. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, his eyes filled with sorrow. He spoke, "Even those with the best intentions can be deceived. They believe they are doing good, but they do not know what door they are opening." I felt as though a massive weight pressed against my chest. I looked back at Trump, at his hand resting on the order he had just signed. He didn't know. He had no idea that he had just legitimized a system that would lead humanity into absolute control, a system that, once entered, would never allow them to return. I wanted to scream, to warn him, to tell the whole world that this was not the right path, but no one could hear me. I was just an observer, a witness, powerless to stop history from being manipulated by forces humanity did not understand. A sense of helpless dread surged through me. No one realized what was truly happening. No one saw where this road was leading. Then Jesus whispered beside me, his voice low and foreboding, like a final warning. When politics and technology become one, the final door will open, and when that happens, there will be no turning back. I stood frozen, staring at the future unfolding before me, a future where humanity would no longer be free, a future where the mark of the beast would no longer be a distant warning in the Bible, but a living reality staring us in the face. And the worst part was, they would welcome it. The world before me continued to transform. Once bustling cities became eerily silent. I saw streets that no longer had their usual crowds rushing to work, shopping centers abandoned as if they had just survived a great disaster. But then I realized this silence was not peace. It was absolute control. At first, the chip was merely a convenience, a way to make payments faster, a universal key that seamlessly connected people to technology, a perfect solution to eliminate all of life's inconveniences. But then the nightmare began. Cash was completely eliminated. Credit cards became useless. Every transaction in the world was now processed through the chip. Anyone without it was effectively erased from the system. I swallowed hard, feeling an indescribable dread creeping into every fiber of my being. Jesus stood beside me, his gaze filled with sorrow so deep it seemed to stretch beyond time itself. Even those who believe in me will be deceived. I saw churches divided. Some pastors preached that the chip was a blessing, a miraculous advancement for humanity. They reassured their followers that God had given mankind the intelligence to create such technology, and therefore accepting it was part of his plan. But others rose in defiance, their voices trembling with urgency, warning that this was the mark of the beast, the very prophecy from the book of Revelation unfolding before their eyes. Those who opposed it were ridiculed, cast out of their own congregations, abandoned by the very people who once called them brothers and sisters in faith. I trembled, my chest tightening with horror. This was not some distant prophecy. This was happening now. I saw believers kneeling in anguish, their hearts torn apart by doubt and fear. They did not know what to believe anymore. They questioned one another. They even questioned their own faith. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. His voice, though gentle, carried both authority and deep sorrow. They believe they are creating heaven on earth, but in truth, they are building the kingdom of the enemy. I saw massive digital billboards lighting up every major city, broadcasting the same chilling messages: no chip, no transport, no job, no chip, no hospital access. Families were being torn apart. I saw fathers and mothers breaking down in tears as their children begged them to accept the chip so they could attend school, so they could eat. I saw wives pleading with their husbands to give in just so they could pay rent and keep their homes. Some people, defeated and exhausted, stretched out their hands to receive the mark. But others, those who understood the truth, clenched their fists, shook their heads, and in that moment became outcasts. Those who refused the chip were labeled extremists, enemies of society. They were hunted, stripped of their rights, erased from existence. I saw believers fleeing into forests, hiding underground, scavenging for survival like hunted animals. They had no homes, no jobs, no protection. Jesus turned to me, his sorrow now heavier than ever before. Henry, when it comes, they will not recognize it. They will believe it is progress, a solution, but when they finally understand, it will be too late. I saw those who had accepted the mark. I watched as they tried to pray. I saw them kneeling in churches, their lips forming the words of faith, but nothing came. They had lost the most precious thing of all, their very souls. A man knelt outside his home, hands clasped together, praying desperately, tears streaming down his face. Across the street, armed soldiers watched him. They murmured into their radios, then marched forward, surrounding him. Moments later, his door was kicked open. They stormed inside, dragging him out like a criminal. His wife screamed, his children sobbed uncontrollably, but no one could do anything. Jesus spoke. Those who reject this mark will be persecuted, but I will protect them. The vision shifted once more. I saw a hidden village deep within the forest, where faithful believers lived by the miracles of God. Rain fell from the sky when they prayed. Food appeared when they cried out to him. Angels stood guard around them, shielding them from the hunters outside. Children laughed without fear. The elderly knelt in gratitude, and those who remained loyal to Christ found peace in the storm. But not everyone found refuge. I saw others wandering aimlessly, lost, not knowing where to turn. I saw believers betrayed by their own families, fathers and mothers turned in by their own children, simply because they refused the mark. I felt their heartbreak, their suffering, but I also saw their unshakable faith. Jesus placed his hand upon me, and his gaze became solemn. "You must go back. You must warn them." A radiant light surrounded me, pulling me away from this terrifying future. Jesus turned to me, his gaze both stern and full of mercy. "Tell them that time is running out. They must prepare now." A sharp pain gripped my heart. I looked down upon the world once more, a place where evil ruled under the guise of progress, where technology had become chains binding the soul, where the faithful were cast into the shadows, yet still carried light within them. An overwhelming sense of urgency flooded through me, as if a door was closing, and those who failed to awaken in time would be left behind forever. Jesus placed his hand upon me, his voice thunderous like a storm rolling across the heavens. "Henry, you have seen it all. Will you tell them?" The question echoed through my soul with such force that I trembled from within. I had seen hell. I had seen destruction. I had seen people who believed they were stepping into paradise, only to be hurled into the abyss of darkness. How could I stay silent? How could I keep this truth to myself? I wanted to answer, and I needed to answer. But before I could utter a single word, a blinding light engulfed me. I felt myself being pulled away, hurled back toward the world I once belonged to. The force was immense, the speed overwhelming, and in the blink of an eye, darkness swallowed everything. I jerked upright on the hospital bed, my breathing ragged, my entire body drenched in sweat. Doctors and nurses around me gasped in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. One of them shouted, "He's back!" We lost him for a few minutes, but his heart started beating again. I barely noticed them. I was no longer the Henry Martin I used to be. I had just returned from a terrifying truth, a reality that this world knew nothing about. I had seen what was coming. I had met God, and now I knew my mission with absolute certainty, to warn the world before it's too late. And so, today's story comes to an end, but the message it carries continues to echo. What is your thought about Henry's story? Comment below to let me know. Share this video with your friends and family, because someone out there might need to hear this message right now. Like this video and leave a comment with your thoughts on today's story. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Eternal Bible Stories so you won't miss more powerful testimonies and life-changing messages in the future. May God bless you.